We've got a young team right now, and Mike Anderson's been our coach for 8 years. He's done a great job leading that basketball program. He's continued to do a great job leading that basketball program. I think he'd be the first to tell you the program this year is not where he thought it would be. But we also, if you look at our roster, we're starting, our best player is a sophomore. We start true freshmen. We have redshirt sophomores that transferred in that are playing. And so we've got a young team that's starting to develop, finally 25 games into the season, but it's hard to win basketball games with youth. And I know that there's some teams like a Duke or Kentucky that are winning basketball games with youth, but we're not Duke or Kentucky right now, and we've got to be realistic about where our program is. But we got some young men that are working hard, and I think we've got the right leader at the helm of our basketball program.
I think a lot of people are still feeling you out because you're new. You're kind of your feelings, policies, hiring, firing, how patient. I think that's a good word. How would you describe yourself as a patient person when it comes to things like that?
Each of our program gets evaluated at the end of every season. We just completed our fall sports evaluations with our volleyball and soccer and football coaches, and we'll do the same with our winter sports, men's and women's basketball and swimming, and evaluate not only what's happened over this past season, but kind of a 5-year review of what's happened, and then what's our plan moving forward about how we're going to get our program to the level where we want our program. And so we do that with all of our sports programs, and our winter sports, as they conclude, will have that same opportunity to be evaluated and to build a plan for the future.
Welcome in, welcome in, welcome in. It's our February 20th edition of On the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk Radio. We come to you live each and every day here on KDSJ 479 from 1 to 2 p.m. And they heard it, Demetrius. All speculation about Coach Mike Anderson, Coach Mr. Hunter Yurachek. We let you hear the audio, and what do you think that means, Demetrius? Sound to you like he's in the hot seat?
Not at all. What I took from that was the 5-year plan. I think that was really good. How he really mentioned the grace period he gives them.
And I think that's good when your AD comes out and endorses you. It helps you not only for this season, but also in recruiting when you go into homes, people, parents, and prospects. Have that sense of comfort that you'll be there their duration of their college career. But we got a real good show for you, as we're going to play throughout the show audio from Courtney Deifel. She'll be up next. Courtney's going to have her home opener, the Lady Razorbacks, as they'll be playing in Bogle Stadium Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. We'll play audio of just how she's looking at this upcoming weekend in front of the home fans. And then we're going to follow her up with Steve Andrews, contributing writer for the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. We'll cover the Lady Razorbacks a lot more in depth and get you listeners and viewers ready for their home opening season at Bogle. And then we're going to follow up at 1:30, talking Fastest 40 and recruiting. Some more recruiting news have come across. Our good buddy of Hogville.net and AR Hoops, Kevin McPherson. He'll be sharing his info with us here shortly. But I want to go back over real quick before we get this thing started to my home guy. It's Wednesday. What's the word?
Nothing. I really wanted to go back and talk about the statements that he made. I think also it helps the coach from a coaching standpoint to really get back focused to what he thinks works for the team. Right. Sometimes when you start getting a lot of pressure from the ADs, you try new things and implement things you've never done. But I think Mike Anderson can continue to build on what he's already implemented with the team.
That's the most you've said on a Wednesday in a long time, my man.
Yeah,
you realize that?
I'm feeling good because my boy Corey Beck came through, so he brightened up my day today.
Real quick, we have a new sponsor, Corey Beck Custom Painting for all interior, exterior, commercial, and residential custom painting. Make sure you get a hold of Corey Beck. You can reach Corey at 479-502-7130. That'll get you into Corey, and like I said, he's gonna do great work. We hired Corey to do us some work, and I'm real excited because I know what type of job I'm going to have done. But once again, that's Corey Beck's Custom Painting, our newest sponsor, and to our old sponsor. We got to show them love, don't we? Lindsay & Associates, with an office location in Fayetteville, an office location also too in Rogers. The Baymont Hotel, it's located at 735 South Shiloh Drive. And lastly, Locomotion, located just below the Northwest Arkansas Mall. But it's time to kick this thing off. I'm ready. D, you ready?
Always.
Courtney Deifel, and then following coach is Steve Andrews. This On the Hill with Pat Jenkins on KDSJ 479.
From Mexico and the way that your girls performed out there, obviously a close one against the number 5 team in the country, but how proud are you of the way you guys performed?
I've been proud of them all year, and I just think that we're finding ways to win in new ways, and I think that's huge at this time of year. We played neck and neck with Washington. We actually outplayed them for probably 6.5 innings, but they got the last punch, and that's, softball sometimes. But to see how they competed against them with what they did this year and the quality of team that they are this year, I'm just really proud of the team. But they're finding ways to win. They're working together. It's not pretty all the time, but they're grinding through it, and you need to see that at this point of the year.
In a game like Washington, despite the outcome, does it give your girls confidence that you are able to compete with a top 5 team?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it shows them they can beat anybody. And they didn't flinch. They never were big-eyed over who we were playing. They just went in and did what they do really well. And although we didn't get the outcome that we wanted, I think that it shows them that they really can compete and beat anybody.
Maggie Hicks is leading the team in batting average. Is that something you saw coming?
Yeah, she's just such a competitor, and she is so athletic. She just finds ways to get it done, and as well as she's hitting offensively, she's been huge for us defensively, and I'm excited for our fans to see her this week at home.
You were
Our Wednesday edition of On the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk Radio. It's our Hump Day edition here on OTH. You can catch us from 1 to 2 p.m. Monday through Friday, and we want to talk a little Razorback softball. It's the big thing, and one of the main things in the main thing when spring sports comes above. And what better way to talk to our good buddy that covers it so well for us here on OTH, Steve Andrews, contributing writer for the Northwest Arkansas Democrat Gazette. Steve, welcome back to the Hill, my man.
How you doing, Pat? Good to be here.
Let's talk about this Razorback women's softball team under Courtney Deifel. Quite the job and quite the 2 weekends that they've had, as they're, I believe, 8-1 heading into their home opener there at Bogle. Talk about, what can the fans expect this weekend? I know you have a preview, but give us a little bit of your tidbits for this coming weekend.
Yeah, they're 8-1 right now. Actually, their only loss came to the number 5 team in the country, which they were actually up in that game until the very last inning, and then, surrendered a couple hits, and Washington came through and beat us in that final inning. A little bit heartbreaking, but as a fan, I said that night, I said, it's kind of cool for it to be heartbreaking to see the softball team lose a game now, because for so long, when they lost, nobody really cared. So kind of an adjustment there. But, they got they're going to host 2 tournaments the next 2 weekends. I think it's the Razorback Invitational this weekend, which starts tomorrow. They're going to start off against SEMO, Southeast Missouri. And then next weekend, they're going to host the Woo Pig Classic. I don't think there's any ranked teams coming in. But still, some solid, softball teams. I think a lot of people don't realize just because a school, like in a sport like softball, may not have a big name, there's a lot of good softball talent out there, some smaller schools, and they're going to bring, there's some quality teams coming in. It's going to pose a good test. As Coach Deifel said, they're just looking to get some experience going in now and kind of iron out some things, and I think they were able to do that the past 2 weekends. They had some peaks and valleys, but they were, starting to sort some things out, and I think it's going to be a great season.
When we had our Coach Deifel on prior to bringing you on your segment, she talked about Mary, Half and Autumn Storms, the way that they feed off one another. Talk about how important that is, in particular in softball, to have 2 studs such as Autumn Storms and Mary Half on your ball club, and how big is that for Coach Deifel going forward, for the rest of the year?
Really, it's great, and particularly, Autumn and Mary, whether if you talk to them, they're almost like opposites. Autumn's very outgoing, energetic. Mary's kind of low-key, very mature, personality. On the mound, Mary's got just a ferocious rise ball, maybe one of the best in the country. Autumn's got a drop ball that just, the bottom falls out as it's coming to the plate. So, I mean, they can really mix that up on some teams. But the thing is, you say opposites attract. I mean, they are a perfect
right.
combination with each other, even though they're not exactly alike. But they're very close. I know Autumn was telling us yesterday that her and Mary rely on each other, and things are going not so well, that they pick each other up and they share information. And she says it's really helped out. And, I think they're using that to thrive off of. I know I can tell you on games that Autumn's not pitching, and you could see that on camera a few times last year during games, very animated. She keeps that dugout going.
Right.
So she's being a big part of the team even when she's not on the field. But I tell you, we're very fortunate to have both of them. And hey, you know what? We're going to have them with both again for a couple more years. So, or at least we're going to have Mary 2 years after this, and I think Autumn for another year after this. So, I mean, the future's still bright with both of those girls.
A senior on this ball club that's really had a great, first 2 weekends to the this early part of the year, and you look for bigger things is Diaz. Talk about her. She, by way of being that first recruit for Coach Deifel, has really grown, and it's kind of the backbone and epitome of this team. Talk about, how she's been able to come out and have so much success at the batter's box.
Yeah, and I'm actually working on a feature story now about Ashley Diaz for tomorrow's Democrat Gazette. I'm going to feature her a little bit, and she actually, Coach Deifel explained to me yesterday that the previous staff had actually recruited her, but her and Coach Deifel came in at the same time. She was a freshman that first year. She is the only 4-year starting freshman that they have right now. They've got two other starting seniors, Katie Ward and Heidi Gagarin. And but Ashley's the only one that's been there for 4 years. She had a phenomenal freshman year. I think she led the team in home runs with 12 and RBIs. And, I mean, it just looked like she was just going to keep tearing the cover off. And she kind of dipped down a little bit her sophomore year. I think just kind of, as Coach Deifel said, just a sophomore slump type thing that a lot of players go through. And but she's really picked it up, at least to start this year. I think she leads the team in RBIs with 9 so far. I think she leads them with 4 doubles. So she's really hitting the ball nicely. And then defensively, she's got a .982 fielding percentage right now. She's had 1 error and 55, times with the ball. So, I mean, she's really solid over there at first base. And, I just expect great things to come from her senior year. And she's very low-key. I talked to her yesterday, and just a very calming presence out there. And then a little side note on that, and I made sure she was okay, comfortable with me talking about this. But she met Yelda Froholt, the football player, for the Razorbacks back when they were freshmen, and they've been an item for about 3 years. And she was telling me how her and Yelda really picked each other up during times. How it's been a really solid relationship for her, and even through her struggles, she said he was just like a rock for her. So, it's kind of a neat story, and I'm going to mention that tomorrow. But she's a key piece.
When you look at the young guns, Maggie's had, the young lady coming out of Sheridan, Arkansas, was the high school player of the year, her senior year here in state. Talk about, this is a young team, Steve, but those young guns are really starting to, step up for Courtney. Talk about how excited she is about such, about her young future and what's to come.
Yeah, I mean, last year, about 3 of our top hitters were all freshmen, so they're sophomores this year. So they're back, and then Maggie Hicks, just a freshman this year. She leads the team in batting average now. She's hitting .435 through these first 2 weekends, and and she's playing short. And again, she's got a .967 fielding percentage over there. She's had 1 error in about 30 attempts. And I mean, so she's made some great plays that are not routine, and really helped him out of some situations. So, I mean, not only offensively, but defensively, she's just, for a freshman particularly, she's really come up big for them. And, Coach Dipel said, they knew she was going to be pretty good, but they didn't quite know what they were getting. So they're pleasantly surprised with what she's brought to the table so far. And, so she's just the leader of the young guns in that freshman class right now. But when you talk freshmen and sophomores, this team is littered with it. And I, really, that's why I say the next couple years at least should be really bright here in Fayetteville for softball.
On the flip side, I know you also too cover the Neighborshood for Coach Neighbors in that program. Talk about them. They're on a 5-game losing streak, but when you look at it even more in depth, Steve, 2 8-point losses and 2 2-point losses out of that 5. Talk about how they can bounce back. I think right now they're in must-win situation to get into that NCAA tournament. I think they have the WNIT locked up, but how can this team rebound? They're traveling to Georgia, one of those teams that beat them by 8 here in Fayetteville. But, how can this team get back on track and get that winning feel back?
Yeah, the thing is, again, they're a younger team too. I think maybe earlier in the year they were really exceeding expectations because they were playing well, and I still think they are. You're right. They're on a 5-game losing streak, but this past game they go into Kentucky, who's the number 17 team in the country, and they almost pull it off. They lose 61-59, kind of heartbreaker. But I think that's just what you're dealing with young girls, and a lot of them, even some of the transfers, the first year playing together. It's just part of building the program there. I think we've got the right guy. I'm hoping, we go into Georgia tomorrow night, and I tell you, that's a solid team. I think they beat us here earlier in the year, but we're going to try to stop that streak there. If not, then hopefully Ole Miss is coming in here Sunday. A big weekend for Razorback athletics overall, but hopefully we can get that turned around here toward the end, and be nice to see them make a run, if not the NCAA tournament, NIT bid, just to get some experience.
Hey, as always, my man, love the women's updates. Both women's basketball and that softball program. And as always, Steve, we'll catch up with you sometime next week, but thanks for taking time out on the Hill.
All right, Pat. Take care, buddy.
That was Steve Andrews, contributing editor for the Arkansas Democrat Gazette, covers the women's softball and women's basketball for us here on OTH Weekly. Constant updates, constant great information. You can catch his articles also at wholehogsports.com and NWA online. But real quick, kicking it over to Demetrius. Steve has made so many points, and this softball team, I tell you, when Courtney came in, her initial year, you're talking about a program that won 7 games. Year 3, they're in the NCAA regionals, and they, are getting one step closer to the Collegiate World Series. This may be her best softball team, and this is year 4. Now, there's been rumors, Demetrius. She's had some offers for other programs, has turned them down. How big is that for Arkansas and for this women's softball program to be, one of the branded softball programs now in the country?
I think it's huge, and one thing that I want people to understand is how important the fan base can be to coaches choosing to stay in a good situation. Because one thing that I got from Steve was he remembers when nobody cared about the Lady Razorbacks losing games.
Dumpster fire.
And it's crazy how when you become a winner, people tend to care about you a little bit more. Or when you're in good situations, the people that wasn't there at the beginning come out of nowhere. So to me, it's a sign to the fans to really just stay true to the program. Don't become those wishy-washy fans because we're having this upside and we're in the good moments. Enjoy the good moments because, that's what actually me and you were just talking about, how crazy it is that we were talking about the 94 and 95 basketball championship team. Right. And we were just saying how it's crazy how so many people didn't know that was going to be the glory age or the golden age of Arkansas basketball. And you really just have to enjoy people's success while they're in it.
And I've always said, I think our listeners and people have heard me say here multiple times here on OTH is Hog Island will have a very successful athletic run with the coaches they have in place, and it goes from Morris to Anderson to Neighbors to Van Horn to Deifel to Buckman to Harder, and the list continues to go on and on. They're recruiting at a high level. The kids are high in character, and they're competing at a high level in their respective conferences and in their respective sports. I really feel like Chad Morris in year 2 and 3 and beyond is going to start to turn the football program around. I have no doubt in my mind that men's and women's basketball within the next 2 starting next year and beyond is going to be on a high level. There's going to be a lot of W's take place in Bud Walton Arena, and a lot of fans are going to be excited and clamoring to see these ball clubs. And then baseball, it is what it is. We know what that is. Coach Van Horn cherry picks all the best players starting to come, and when you make the Collegiate World Series, kids see the way the fan base is for the baseball program. I agree with you, Demetrius. That speaks volumes, and that's the reason most kids want to be a part of that baseball program by the atmosphere that's created here on Hog Island. But we're going to step away. Time to get into that Fastest 40 and talk with our good buddy Kevin McPherson of Hogville.net and AR Hoops. But before that, we're caught up with Coach Beckman of the men's track program. They have the SEC indoor championships taking place, and we'll let you hear just briefly. They're going to be in the underdog role, but Coach Beckman kind of feels good about that. We'll let you hear Coach Beckman, and then, like I said, Kevin McPherson. He's up next. It's On the Hill with Pat Jenkins on KDSJ 479.
Program, but again, a wonderful opportunity to coach a great group of kids, and we're underdogs right now. Nobody's picking us to win, and but I still feel like we're a contender for this championship. If a lot of things have to go right, but see what happens.
Well, what makes you feel that way?
Just the type of kids we have, and last week was the first week we kind of really took a good look at the other teams, and we're all battling the same stuff. We're all battling depth and trying to find places where we can score points. And it's like I said earlier, man. It's the league. There's so much parity right now. That the team that catches on fire, the team that believes they can overcome a few obstacles, that kind of team will win the meet. Obviously, Florida is the team out in front. They got a phenomenal team, but it's we're not, the group of us chasing them are not too far behind, and things happen certain ways, and you find yourself right in the thick of it. So.
You said guys double, some might even triple. Who are going to be your workhorses for the weekend?
Well, you can look at you look at a guy like Hunter that he'll see a lot of work this weekend. Gilbert Boyd, Austin Dahlquist, all of our distance runners will be doubling.
They'll be doing 3 and the 5.
3 and the 5K, and you got Cameron Griffith, who will most likely run more than that. So we haven't decided on the distance medley relay yet, but he'll be in the 5K. Excuse me, he'll be in the 3K and the mile. So and then possibly the DMR.
So Boyd's doing the 3 and the 5, and
yep.
Griffith's doing the mile and the 3.
Yep.
And they both could be on the DMR.
Both could find themselves. Well, maybe not Boyd, but certainly Cameron and what have you. So.
And Hunter's doing the 4 and the 4x4.
4 and the 4x4, and who knows? Maybe even a DMR too. Just depends on how that prelim goes. So those relays really won't come together until we find out what happens in the prelims.
Right. See how guys are feeling.
Yep.
Well, what other guys are key for you, do you think, besides the guys you mentioned?
Welcome in. It's our Wednesday edition of On the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk Radio, coming to you live each and every day here on KDSJ 479, Monday through Friday from 1 to 2 p.m. But real quick, before we get on to talking Fastest 40 with our next guest, we want to give a shout-out to all our sponsors. Lindsay & Associates with an office location in Fayetteville, an office location also too in Rogers. The Baymont Hotel, located at 735 South Shiloh Drive in Fayetteville, and also to Locomotion, located just below the Northwest Arkansas Mall, and our newest sponsor, Corey Beck's Custom Painting for interior, exterior, commercial, or residential. Contact Corey Beck at 479-502-7103. And with that being said, now on to the main thing, the Fastest 40. Welcome our good buddy of AR Hoops and Hogville.net, Kevin McPherson. K-Mac, welcome back to the Hill.
Always good to be with you, Pat. You know it. You know it.
Arkansas has a big game tonight, Kevin. You and I know it. I mean, it's from here on out, it's must-win basketball. Talk about game keys and what must this team do? Because, Kevin, when you look at this both of these teams are fairly close. As far as throughout the season. Talk about, is this one of the games that you feel like will come down to the last 1 or 2 possessions?
I mean, it could. You know, Auburn's one of those teams that they're kind of up and down, and not like Arkansas has been. They can catch fire, and they can put you down there in a hole early, and I don't think Arkansas is put together to be a big comeback team. Now, we've seen them make some comebacks, but it's harder to do on the road. Auburn's got veteran guards. We saw what veteran guards at Mississippi State did to Arkansas and Fayetteville. Now, they're two different kinds of teams, but Auburn is going to push the ball. They're going to rebound well. They attack the glass. Bruce Pearl's team's guards will do that, and they like to shoot that three. So if they run out on Arkansas early, it could be a long night, Pat.
When you look at this team, as you said, I mean, it's a must-win. I mean, this is a must-win. What is the main key, the biggest key of this game? And what I mean by that is matchup. You know, what it is, Arkansas's young guards versus the experienced guards of Auburn, or is it going to be that inside matchup with Daniel Gafford and Okeke? You know, which way are you going with that?
Man, I think it's both. I think we saw last year Arkansas and Auburn split, and Gafford ate them alive in Fayetteville. They didn't have an answer for him, and I think Okeke's a good player, the 6'8 kid. Austin Wiley's the big five-star guy that just really hadn't panned out yet. He's only playing about 15 minutes a game on average this season. He missed a few games, and he's just not giving them a lot of production. So I think Gafford can eat inside. I think this is an opponent that if Arkansas plays it right, he can do some damage. But we've seen Gafford in Arkansas struggle against these zone defenses, and teams are just hanging all over him with 2 or 3 guys waiting on him. And so even if they don't have frontline pieces like some of these other teams have, they might still make it hard for Arkansas to play through him. So Arkansas is going to have to make it.
What must Arkansas do to get off that NCAA bubble? I know you keep a lot of information on social media, you know, with Joe Lenardi. It seems like he has updated weekly, Kevin. But where are you at with Arkansas and the NCAA tournament? What must this team do to get back into the NCAA?
Well, they're going to have to win. Yeah, I think they're going to win 4 of these last 6 games and probably win a game in the SEC tournament to be on the bubble. But they're still on the bubble, and that's what people maybe don't realize. 14, 11, 5, and 7 in the SEC, and they're still on the bubble after 3 straight losses. So they can still, I think, control their own destiny here. They got to get back on the winning track of things. That's obvious. But you know, an Auburn win would look really good on the resume because it's a road win against a top 50 NCAA net team. So you get the starts tonight. And I think you're right. I don't like calling games a must-win, but I don't think Arkansas can afford a 4-game losing streak for the second time this year and have real valid hopes after this. But, you know, anything can happen. They could still lose this game and maybe play their way in, but I think they need it.
Talking with Kevin McPherson of AR Hoops and Hogville.net here on OTH for those listeners and viewers that have just tuned in. You know, one of the main things that came out in the post game on Saturday was, you know, there was a question posed about recruiting, and Coach Anderson instantly said we got to get older and we got to get bigger. Well, it came out yesterday. Raymond Hawkins had Arkansas in his top 5. Also, too, there's been some JUCO movement and prep school movement. Could you give the listeners an update as to where Arkansas is, you know, with finding players that can come in and help this program?
Yeah, Raymond Hawkins did announce his top 5. Arkansas is in it, along with Arizona State, Mississippi State, DePaul, and Buffalo. He told me not last night, the night before, actually. It was actually Monday night when he made his list, that he's in the works of getting his official visit set up with Arkansas. So he's working on that. And he's a guy at 6'9", 6'10", out of Findlay Prep. I think Arkansas showed getting Reggie Chaney that they've had success there, and he might be another piece they can add to that front line to help offset Gafford. Not one guy this late in the game is not going to replace Gafford, but you do it by committee, and that'd be a great start. JUCO ranks, they're looking at a couple of wings that are JUCO. You know, Arkansas is so young, and if they're going to bring guys in, it might be good to get a mix of, like, you know, Hawkins would be a high school senior, so he'd be a freshman.
Right.
Maybe get a couple of JUCO guys with some bounce off that wing that brings an element that Arkansas doesn't have, but they lost when guys like Khalil Garland didn't get cleared or when Darius Hall transferred. I'm not even sure that they won't look at a grad transfer pad, and that's something Mike really hasn't done outside of Willie Kawasi, but I'm going to keep my eye on that as well.
When you look at this team, it came out yesterday. You know, there's been speculation, Kevin, about Coach Anderson and his job status. Well, AD Hunter Yurachek came out in big-time support, not semi-support, but, you know, he made the statement to, you know, where if I'm listening, what I'm taking is Mike's going to be here for many, many years to come. You know, what does that do for a program, Kevin, when your AD comes out? It's public knowledge that he supports the head coach. You know, what does that do out on the recruiting trail for prospects and for the coaches going in?
Well, it's a double-edged sword. Anytime the AD has to come out and say something or he's being asked, sometimes that, and they're always going to say the right thing, but sometimes that can be a precursor of the things starting to unravel. I know that sounds weird. You hope that the AD giving some confidence and saying, hey, this is young. I mean, it could very well be that's exactly where he is with it and that nothing's going to happen. But sometimes when it gets to a point where there's being questions raised and the AD feels like they've got to comment, sometimes they're still holding their cards and they're not sure it could go either way. And I've seen it play out where ADs come out and give a vote of confidence, and then weeks or a month or so later they have to make a change. So I don't know that we can go much off of what Juracek said other than what he said is accurate. That is a young team. That's an excuse only so long, even late in the year. But what I'm seeing is Arkansas is hitting some mental walls against teams that have know-how, have more experience. They're used to playing in the basketball gets more physical at the last stretch of the season as teams are getting ready for postseason. It's a tougher grind, and you can see the experience on some of these teams. They've been through these wars in the SEC in previous years, and Arkansas's got so many guys that every night out there's something new that they've got to work through. The fact that they've held leads in these games or had chances to win these last 3 games tells me that not all is bad, that they're not just getting punked and beat, beat soundly every night. And there's still some question whether or not they can win these games. So I think they're on the right track. I think it's a lack of experience, but I really do. I think that's the biggest thing. I think you can look at turnovers, rebounds, matchup problems. At the end of the day, I think it's been lack of experience in this last 3 games that's really hurt them.
Hey, Kevin, as always, I love the weekly updates. Continue to do what you do. For those that have, you want to check out Kevin's articles, you can do that on NWA Online, or you can get on hogville.net. I mean, this guy does a great job. When you want to know about basketball recruiting the fastest 40 style, Kevin's the guy you want to follow with. As always, Kevin, thanks for taking time out on the hill, my man.
Good to be with you, Pat. Thank you.
All right. That was Kevin McPherson of AR Hoops and hogville.net. Giving us the skinny on Arkansas's ball game. Tip-off is tonight at 7:30. You can catch that on the SEC Network. Arkansas travels to the Plains to take on the Auburn Tigers. Auburn comes in 6-6. Arkansas comes in 5-7. When you look at this, Demetrius, this is a big game for all parties involved, both the Auburn Tigers and the Razorbacks. I mean, these teams are trying to get in to the tournament talk. Arkansas is a couple of wins away. I think they have to win 5 of their last 6, in my opinion, to solidify themselves and possibly have to get 1 or 2 in the SEC tournament. I think it's going to take at least 20 for this version of Fastest 40 to get in. But I want to kick it over to you before we close this thing out, as we're going to make our way to Coach Mike Neighbors' availability with the media to preview tomorrow's ball game. They'll be traveling tonight to take on the Georgia Lady Bulldogs once again in Athens, Georgia, tomorrow night. But real quick, Demetrius, when you heard all of our guests, Steve Andrews, we talked about the girls softball team. Now back to Coach Anderson, and what your chick said. Is this something that you said in the heat of the moment, or do you feel like this is a big time endorsement for Coach Anderson?
No, I really think it's a big time endorsement. I just think really when you take apart really what it is that he's saying, like he said, it's true. They do have a young team. They are very experienced. Even when you talk about the best player on the team in Gafford, just playing as a basketball career as a whole, he's very inexperienced. So, I mean, it's a lot of validity to it.
Well, that's going to wrap it up here, as we're going to have to get on. Tomorrow, now, we're going to have some some things we got to fix in the studio, so we won't have a show tomorrow, but we'll be back Friday. We have some things we got to get right. Make the show, just make it look a little bit better. And but I wanted to make a note, tomorrow there will be no OTH, but we will be back with all of your latest information on Friday, and it'll be the A. So we're not going long. We just got some corporate issues that we have to take care of, and to bring you the best show. But I want to wrap up our show and give a big thank you to Steve Andrews, contributing writer for the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, also to Kevin McPherson of AR Hoops, hogville.net, for giving us the fastest 40 scoop, and a lot of recruiting updates for Coach Anderson and his program. And we'll also thank our sponsors, Lindsay & Associates, with an office location in Fayetteville, an office location also too in Rogers, the Baymont Hotel. It's located at 735 South Shiloh Drive, Locomotion, located below the Northwest Arkansas Mall.